Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars, some of my favourite people. 2 in 1 today. Russell Watson, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Well, you are delicious, let's face it. I mean, you're the #1 selling tenor in Britain. Everybody loves a bit of Russell Watson, and you're still gigging and gagging. Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed. That's very kind of you. We had a nice tour at the start of this year. We did about 20 concerts, and they all did very well, so we've decided to do some more at the end of the year. My childhood dream of performing in some of the most iconic cathedrals throughout the United Kingdom.
Yes, well, they've got a large organ, haven't they, in most of these cathedrals?
Most of them do have large organs, although some of them aren't always in use.
Yes, well, mine certainly isn't.
Moving swiftly on.
Let's talk about the spring tour. There was one problem with that show. I did come and see you. Facial hair. Where are we on facial hair at the moment?
It's gone.
Oh, thank Christ.
The facial hair's gone. I mean, there's a lot of complaints from fans, and the biggest complaint actually was coming from my I was going to say girlfriend, but I get chastised regularly for that. My fiancée.
Of course.
Was complaining about the fact that she didn't like my bristles, because it's strange. My moustache, the hairs on my chin, they grew down, but my moustache hairs grow outwards. So if I left them, they would kind of be growing horizontally out of my face, and I don't know. It was just bizarre. They don't grow down, if you know what I mean. They grow out.
Well, the last time I tried facial hair, the current Mrs. Belfield said she didn't like it because it chafed on the inner thigh. Now, I don't know what that means.
What's she talking about?
I've no idea. So that's gone. Congratulations. So no facial hair at the moment.
My chin anywhere near my inner thigh these days. No.
If you could do that, you'd never leave the house.
No.
What? So it's all gone, just to confirm. No more facial hair whatsoever.
I'm trying to remember what it was. It was an event that I had. Oh, it was a photo shoot. We were doing a photo shoot for something, for a magazine. And
Readers' Wives or something.
Cheshire Magazine we were doing a photo shoot for. And Louise said the day before, you need to get rid of that before you do that photo shoot tomorrow. It ages you. And I went, pardon? Well, thanks for being brutally blunt with me. So I looked in the mirror that morning and I was thinking, I might just leave it on just to annoy her and everybody else. But I decided after a little bit of deliberation in the mirror that it did actually make me look a little bit older. So I shaved it off.
Oh, thank God for that.
Complaining that I shaved it off.
It would have been nice for a party, perhaps Halloween.
Thanks very much.
No. I'm always here to help.
I'm going for a D'Artagnan look, but you think it was more of a what look?
I'm glad we've cleared that up anyway, so good, no more facial hair. So we can get back to the matter in hand, which is you and your voice. I mean, the night I saw you in Nottingham, we had a chat before, and you weren't feeling 100%, but amazingly, you stood on that stage, and you were just brilliant. On those nights, you're not feeling perfect. Is it tough? Do you have to give it an extra sort of 10% to get over that?
Yeah, you know, with a voice, it's a bit annoying actually. Like if you play guitar and your guitar strings snap, you can go out and buy a new pack of them, put some nice new ones on, and give them a little rub and a polish, and you're back to normal. But unfortunately, with voices, which is also a form of an instrument, you can't do that. So if the voice is feeling a bit rusty or a bit under the weather, you know, like a cold or a sore throat or something like that, there's no escaping from it. And when you're in the midst of a big tour in the United Kingdom, the last thing you want to be doing is pulling concerts because you've got a bit of a sore throat. So, you know, the old show must go on routine very much stood, and I just had to get on and sing through it. But when the tour finished, I needed to rest my voice for about 4 or 5 weeks. I didn't do any singing and as little talking as possible after the tour, because it did feel a bit ragged, and it really did need the rest. And another thing as well, you know, if you're on stage and you're singing with a bit of an odd throat, there's nothing. I guess it's a bit like being an athlete. If you know that you can do the 100 meters in under 10 seconds, and then all of a sudden you're running it in 11 seconds, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's the same when you're singing. you know, like, for instance, if I'm doing, say, the music of the night or something like that from the Phantom, and there's a top A flat which I hold forever and look at my watch jokingly, when you've got a bit of a problem with the throat, you can't hold those notes as long, and it becomes a bit of a nuisance. And we just made the tour, the last showing at the Festival Hall, my throat, I could barely speak.
Wow.
And again, you know, when you're doing concerts and you feel that way, it's a bit like, I'm going to bore you now with psychology, but it's a bit like if you're a footballer and you go on the field and you've banged in 20-odd goals that season, and then in the last game of the season you go on and you're sticking them in, you know, row Z and hitting the corner flag. When you go on to play the next game of football, it's that last game that sticks in your head.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if you've got an injury or a bad throat. The psychology of it means that the next time I went on to do a gig, even though I knew my throat was better, I was thinking, well, I hope I can hit the top notes tonight. It affects you psychologically.
I can't imagine anything more intimidating than looking at an audience who are waiting for the big crescendo, especially with something like Nessun Dorma, and not knowing whether you can make it. It must be terrifying.
It is terrifying. I mean, thankfully, I have so far always made the top notes, but it's terrifying.
Yeah, Cheryl Cole came out the weekend. She says she's going to tape her next performance because she doesn't want to compromise the people on her team on X Factor. So I was thinking perhaps you could just play your CD. It would save on the band, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd make an absolute fortune. I wouldn't have to hire 40 musicians and, you know, maybe just have it's funny because there are some of the shows where some of the shows that I do where we don't, if they're in smaller venues, you can't physically fit an orchestra into some of the venues that I sing at. So I will sing to backing tracks. I'll sing to backing tracks.
Yeah.
And often, you know, I'll jokingly say behind the curtain, you know, ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't fit the orchestra on the stage. They're hiding away behind the curtain, so please give them a big round of applause. And sometimes you can see, you know, people will actually come up to you and go, oh, where are they behind the curtain? Yes, of course they were.
You know me, I mean, I love to tease and we love to have a laugh, but I have great admiration for what you do. You are stunning on stage, and it's amazing to think, after what you've been through in the 10 years that have passed, that you're still able to knock it out of the park. You're still able to pull these huge audiences when so many other people in the business have packed in and gone to work as taxi drivers. Is it still a thrill for you that you can pack these places?
Yes, it is. It's still, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter what stage I've been at in my career. Maybe in the early days, the first sort of 2 or 3 years, I took it for granted. But sort of at this stage in my career, I would never for 1 minute take it for granted that, you know, I'm able to still sell out some of the most prestigious venues in the United Kingdom and still perform there. I don't take that for granted. And yeah, I have had my ups and downs, but you probably find that most people who've sustained a career in the music industry for 15 years have also had ups and downs as well. I don't see myself as anything different to anybody else who's been able to sustain a career in the music industry. It is an industry laden with sharks.
The public will ultimately decide. If you've got a product that's good enough, they will come. If you're trying to cheat them, they might come once, but they won't necessarily come again.
Exactly. And the good thing for me, and that I'm very fortunate in, is that, you know, my voice has over the years held up, and I'm still able to do it in the live arena. I've got to admit, after I was ill, that the biggest thing for me was actually not kind of getting back on stage and singing. The biggest thing that I had to overcome was my confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I had a major confidence issue after my second operation because, first of all, you know, I was frightened that it was going to happen again, and secondly, when I was walking on the stage, I felt like a different person.
Right.
I didn't feel, when I'd walked on the stage before, and I was this kind of carefree, you know, I don't care about anything, and maybe there was a a tinge of arrogance attached to the way I would walk on the stage without an absolute care in the world. It was like, this is my, this is my lounge, this is my dining room, this is where I live.
Yeah.
That's how it felt walking on stage. There's a different feeling now when I walk on stage, and it's not quite as carefree as it was before, but it's definitely more joyous.
I remember a chat we did, the first chat after you came back after the second tumour, and we were at Loose Women of all places, and it was so moving to hear your story. And then here we are today going into cathedrals. You are spiritual, aren't you? I mean, it is a natural home for you to perform in that type of venue. This coming Christmas, you'll be all over the country in these beautiful cathedrals, in such a beautiful environment, singing these spiritual songs.
Yeah, I mean, I am spiritual, but I think a lot of that's come from, what's happened to me health-wise, and also the fact that, I'm progressing in years as well, and the closer we get to the inevitable, I think the more spiritual we end up becoming. Well,
you are very old now. How old are you, Russell? 104, 105?
I'm 173 now.
God, you look good on it, especially since you shaved your beard, funnily enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was my Draculaic look.
It's amazing what standing over a mirror and a bit of personal trimming can do, isn't it?
Oh! Quite so. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this tour because many years ago I had the opportunity to sing in a couple of big cathedrals, unamplified. And I just remember the thrill of hearing my voice bouncing around these huge ceilinged venues. It was just amazing.
I can't wait to see you. I'm sure it's going to be incredibly moving, and I know you're going to put in "Oh Holy Night," which is probably my favourite of all the Christmas songs. I mean, that's going to be a tearjerker for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, that the feeling of I've been to a few recitals myself, and there's not much finer than hearing a tenor voice roaring in that type of environment, in the cathedral environment. It's a great feeling, and we're also going to have we're going to be using some of the local choral sections as well to back up some of the pieces that I'll be performing. It's not, it won't all be religious. There's going to be a fun element to the show as well, and some well-known Christmas pieces that everybody's going to recognise, and of course if they want to join in then they can, and we'll probably do a couple of well-known hymns as well, but predominantly there'll be a very good selection of Christmas favourites.
I suppose there'll be hymns and hers, really, won't there, during the show? Any chance of Jingle Bells?
Oh, Alex, you are the card, aren't you?
I've just got too much time on my hands, that's the trouble.
Yeah, there'll be a couple of hymns. We're doing the nation's favourite hymn, which is How Great Thou Art.
Very nice.
That'll be in there. And I don't know about Jingle Bells, but there'll certainly be... well, I mean, I was going to say it won't be a silent night when I'm there, but I'll probably be singing Silent Night at some point.
And afterwards we can all chant, "O come, all ye faithful."
Yes, but I'm going to be doing that in Latin this year.
Are you really?
Oh, come all ye faithful in Latin.
I've always wanted to do a religious show, in Latin. It could be called On Your Knees with Alex Belfield. I thought it'd go down well. What do you think? A ratings winner?
I think it's a winner. I'm in. Yeah.
You've heard of the BBC's Big Sing? Mine will be On Your Knees.
We can call it the Little Sing.
Yes, indeed we can. Hey, listen, Russell, it's always nice talking to you. I wish you well with this Christmas tour. I'll be coming to see you. You're going to be all over the UK, Beverley and Derby cathedrals, and you're going to add in some more dates shortly, so it's selling incredibly well. Get in quick. Go to www.russellwatson.com for full details, how you can get tickets for the Candlelight Christmas tour. Russell, always lovely to talk to you. I'll see you in Derby. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks very much, Alex. God bless. See you in there.